Hi everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Nature Series. I'm Vivian, aka Vivzu.
I'm Molly Jean.
Hey. So in January, we did these succulent terrarium nails on Molly Jean kind of on the fly. And these literally became my favorite interpretation of succulent nails that I've ever done. The original inspiration for succulent nails comes from botanical artist Arizona, whom I found on Instagram about 5 years ago. So I always want to give her a shout out for coming up with this beautiful idea. Before we get started, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to like and comment on our video. We really appreciate all your support and we look forward to making a ton more videos just like this. And without further ado, let's make some succulent terrariums. First thing you'll need is some kind of dirt base. Here I'm using some natural elements I got from artglitter.com and I'm mixing it with some clear acrylic powder. It's more of a leafy green substance than it is dirt, but you can also substitute it for brown or black acrylic if you would like. Here I am holding the hand of my friend Jazz, aka Jazz Got Bars. We have pre-prepped her nails for this and we've already placed a form on top. What I'm doing here is laying our clear acrylic base and I am sculpting the shape of the extension. We're doing a stiletto shape and I'm just using Young Nails Speed Clear. It's really important here to make sure that our acrylic layer is nice and thin, because we're going to be adding a lot of bulk, especially around the cuticle area. Just a quick little note on the forms. I am using Elegant Glass Nails Butterfly forms and I'm using a Light Elegance number 12 acrylic brush. You can grab these from Gemini Cosmetics, which is one of my favorite businesses and nail supplies to buy from. When you're doing your base layer of dirt, especially if you are using a similar element that I'm using, which is slightly chunkier and loose pieces of dirt or leaves, you want to make sure that you're optimizing for coverage and trying to minimize for thickness. And same also if you're just using some kind of black acrylic or if you even wanted to add some glitter into the mix, that you're covering for bald spots where you know you won't be placing some succulents. That way you won't have any weird clear spots that show through and kind of break the illusion of the terrarium. The colorways for the succulents are easily created by picking up one bead of base color and then subsequently dipping it in a darker shade of green and then a pink or a purple for this specific colorway. It adds dimension to your petals, and especially when you are dropping down this wet bead, you'll notice that the colors will start to marble and it'll have some sort of natural ombre that you can then manipulate and you can start kind of like moving things around and making it look exactly how you want to. In this first petal, I decided I didn't pick up enough of the pink, so I just went back and grabbed a little bit of the pink, dropped it on the very tippy tip of the leaf, and I gently kind of eased it down and brushed it down. Creating anything organic, you kind of have to let go of some control issues you might have, and you want to not obsess about it being completely perfect. Choosing the right colors really is 90% of the work, because when the colors are harmonious together and they mix well together, then you know that any combination of them will look great no matter what you do. One thing stylistically that I chose to do with these succulents is that I wanted to mimic the bulbousness of the leaves, and I also wanted to give it a nice little point at the end. It's very different than doing kind of a delicate rose or a delicate flower, because then I would use the belly of my brush to push kind of harder so that they flatten out and the edge gets to be a little bit more wispy. But here I'm looking for structure, and so I'm definitely going to make sure that there's some level of thickness to each of the leaves. One thing to kind of keep in mind when you're doing these kind of natural ombres is that you don't want to go too crazy and reverse the order in which you pick up the colors. So if you're going to start with green, you don't necessarily want to start off with pink on a second petal. That way, at least the petals are consistent in terms of what colors they start off in the center and what colors they end with. That way, you're not getting these crazy different colors and it starts to look like it's not really natural and organic and more kind of synthetic. And when you're ending these succulents, you literally just take one of the beads, maybe make it a little bit smaller than you're used to, and take the tippy tip of your brush and just kind of poke a hole in the middle, and then use the sides of the brush to kind of push it inwards. I like to think of it as making kind of like a triangular shape. That seems to be what looks most accurate to me to represent a succulent, but you can take creative liberties and find out what looks best to you. One little thing to note is to make sure you're not building your entire succulent on the sidewalls. You want to try to minimize the amount of bulk that you have on the sidewalls, just because you don't want to file all that pretty hard work away when you are trying to shape the nail ultimately. And just so that you can warn your clients ahead of time that you're doing this for, she's going to be a little more thickums than your normal nail encapsulation. There's just no way to go about it. All these flowers just kind of add the bulk. Here I'm adding a cute little butterfly decal thing from Daily Charm, and this is just to add a little bit more dimension. In the original nails I did for Molly Jean, I used these little green sprouts that I found from Amazon. You guys can totally use whatever it is that you find that you think would look really cute in your terrarium. The clear cap is somewhat of a challenge, just because you want to make sure that you get into all the little nooks and crannies that you've just formed with your garden. You want to use really wet beads, and you want to also kind of change your technique around such that you're using the tip of your brush to kind of push and nudge all this acrylic into the little crevices that you've just formed. This is where you really get to see why I was stressing that you work extra thin when you're building your base layer and when you're adding on the dirt. There's not a lot of room to play with in terms of height, and there's not a lot of control, especially when you're trying to make the succulents look realistic. So just do try your best to minimize the mightiness of your apex, but if it ends up being a little thick, it's not the end of the world. A little cameo by Jazz right here, taking off her form, so satisfying. And here we're hand filing to clean up the shape. And then we get to top coat her. Look at her. She's so beautiful. If you do decide to do these, please tag us in your recreations. You can tag me at VivZoo or at Pamper Nail Gallery. And I would love to ogle all your custom colorways and all the ways that you guys will choose to personalize this design. And for those of you who are inclined, we also added these modified versions of the terrariums for sale as press-ons at pampernailgallery.com.